I know what's happening. We have to work on your branding. We needed to tweak, and we needed to adjust the presentation of the food, to adjust the names, because we need to adjust to a market. This is a different market. We were able to tweak. We also hired a local chef to work with the chefs from China and Indonesia, and it opened, and it was a very big success. It was fantastic. It did work, but you have to listen a lot. Listen and ask the right questions. And of course, having on the other side someone that is willing to take that feedback and that guidance that you're trying to give them and not be stubborn, not have a big ego.
This is Gloneration Podcast, conversations around a new generation of global talents and brands. Ciao, I'm your host, Simona Lodolo. Once again, I'm here ready to dive deep and discover the generation that is shaping the future of culture, economics, and society. Today, for the first time, physically, I'm so happy to have here with me today Felipe Ospina, sales consultant at Cisco Corporation and hospitality veterans. Ciao, Felipe.
Ciao. Finally, we been able to meet.
Yeah, is the first guest from Chicago, but is the one that took longer. Connector, consultant, and connoisseur. This is how you define yourself.
So I've been working in restaurants since I was in Colombia, in Bogota, in hospitality. I actually worked over there in American Airlines, and then I moved to the U.S. in Miami. And in Miami, I was part of many projects, including projects that are very big now, like Nikki Beach, that Nikki Beach is all around the world. And that's when I was starting my career. And I worked for the Four Seasons Hotel in Miami. But then I decided to move to New York City. Why? Well, New York is one of the capitals of restaurants and hospitality and the best chefs in the world. So I wanted to experience that. And over there, I was able to work in great establishments, including Buddha Bar, same Buddha Bar from Paris that is in the Meatpacking District. I was part of the opening team. From there, I was able to manage and become a general manager of a concept that ended up coming here to Chicago called Mercadito. The owner was also someone with a ton of experience in the industry. So I was able to absorb and learn a lot. That also brought me to Chicago. Chicago was actually an accident. I was supposed to help them open a Mercadito, and I ended up staying here. And then after that, I opened around 25, 26 different concepts for different groups, different positions from general manager, director of operations, director of marketing. And that also took me to do new things like, hey, let's open my own company and let's start consulting and helping people. I felt that I had a little more knowledge to be able to pass that and share that with others. That was an amazing stage of my career. But I always want to do more. Now, what else can I do? And that's when I decided to move and work for Cisco Corporation. I work in sales and development, and I call myself a consultant for my chefs. I find them everything, even things that I don't have in my portfolio, because at one point I was calling someone to design a beverage program or things like that, which I don't sell liquor, but I know people who design beverage programs. So when my chefs I'm working with them and we're putting together a food menu and we're doing tastings. Well, that's not the only part of what I do. I recently did one that just a really nice article came out on Eater, and it's the Gregory in Barrington for Chef Jose Sosa. Well, for that one, we were working together for over probably 7 months or more. He needed plateware, glassware, kitchen equipment. He needed to do some research and find staff. So all these little things, they're not so little. It's a lot of work when you're opening it. Those are resources and things that I bring to the table for my chefs. It takes a lot of dedication. And I don't manage just one account. I have multiple chefs from different backgrounds, different types of cuisine, different types of restaurants, from fine dining all the way to a quick service restaurant. It keeps me very busy because a restaurant never stops.
Where does it come from? Where does this love for hospitality, the restaurants, where does it come from?
Well, that's born at home. Being from Colombia, it's all about the family, and it's about making people feel good. When you are having dinner and your mom is cooking, it's just a lot of love on a plate. And not only that, is the environment that is created around you. It's my grandfather and my grandma going to their house and Same thing. It's like they just want to pamper you and take care of you and make you feel good. Eat, eat. They all have their dishes and things and ways to make me feel great and welcome. So that was always in my family. Life put me in a situation where I was able to do the same for others. I do love cooking at home. I love entertaining. You're going to find me that right now at home, I was portioning salmon, lamb chops, pork chops, and all this. This is the same type of product that I work with my chefs, which I learned from them very much. They teach me a lot. There's so many talented people in our industry that but it comes from there. It really comes from the family.
I think cooking and eating, staying together, I think you can feel the energy. I do feel it. You love people, you love spending time and really understanding.
It's breaking bread. And when you're doing that, there are great conversations and food makes you happy.
If you have to say one very tough moment in these years of adventure in the international restaurant environment and hospitality, and one very happy.
Definitely 2020 was the time when I was transitioning from operations to moving into sales and work with a very large company like Cisco. At that time, COVID happened. So it's like, okay, I make this change in my career and this is happening. That was very scary. And what was happening around me was as all of us, the unknown. What can you control? The attitude is the one thing that you can control. And work hard, put your head down and trying to figure out what is happening, trying to communicate with everyone around you and trying to build community and help everybody. So that was one thing that it was very scary because one day the restaurants were open, then the next week the restaurants were closing. It was what can I control? And it was the attitude and it was just connecting with the community. At that point, I had very big community here in Chicago, and it's something that for me has always been very important. Networking, community, just connecting with the right people. At the end, life is easier if you have the right people around you, especially with restaurants and the amount of moving parts that go behind it. From my perspective was like, okay, I just changed career. Not 100%, but I am working in a new company. I'm the new guy and these things are happening. It's like, what am I going to do? How can I bring value? How can I support? And it was fantastic. We were able to support so many people. And just think about this. A company like Cisco is placing orders from all around the world. Things are coming from Italy, from Spain, locally, and these orders were already placed. They're coming in, but then everything gets shut down. So what do you do with all that product that is already coming in? My bosses and vice president of sales and the president of the Cisco in Chicago, they knew that I had that community. And they said, Felipe, we need to find a home for all this food. I'm willing to send you an entire truck to wherever you want it. So I called my chefs and I called Chef Carlos Gaitana at Zuko. And I said, Chef, we got something and we need help and we need to put together all the community and all the chefs to help. And everyone jumped in. He said yes. Other chefs said yes. And I had a full semi truck parked right in front of Zuko with food. There was a line that would go around the block and we were just giving fresh food away to everybody. That felt really, really good that food was not going to go to waste. So the scary part became actually a positive, and it was like we were able to support and help people. And that not just happened once during that time, it happened multiple times. Of course, Cisco's trying to continue to do business and restaurants are opening, restaurants are closed. Our par levels are all over the place. It was quite the experience. Wow. It made all of us stronger, and it also showed who was there for others and who wanted to go in a different route and just sit on a couch and just wait, which I know, hey, look, it is what it is, but I rather hang out with the ones that are going to do something about it and are going to give back to the community, because that's hospitality. That is called giving back. It's not just about a transaction and not just about running a business. It's more than that. For me, it's very important.
How do you adapt and get ready to consult different kind of restaurants and from different cultures also? So you need to interact with chefs from everywhere. So how do you adapt?
Well, here's one project that it was actually a little bit challenging, but we figured it out. So there was a group from Indonesia, Jakarta. They were trying to open a concept here in the US, and they were hitting a few roadblocks, and they just couldn't figure out everything 100%. Someone recommended, you know, me to them, and we had a meeting, and it was something where it's about listening. You have to listen and ask the right questions, first of all. Like, okay, show me what you are currently doing to be able to penetrate this market. And that's where that conversation starts. And you can tell that they wanted to open a high-end Chinese restaurant in the downtown area, but then you're looking at the branding and how they're presenting themselves. You're looking at how they're plating their dishes. You're looking at the actual design of the plate that they're using, and it was just a very boring plate. Immediately in the first meeting, I already had an idea what was happening. It was more about guiding them. So we set up a trip. I had to go to Jakarta because they have 40 restaurants in Jakarta.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're big in Jakarta. And I went there and met with a corporate chef who was the person in charge of the project here in the U.S., the person that is in charge of the restaurant group in Jakarta. We went to all the restaurants, we tasted food, and from there, I was like, okay, I got it. I know what's happening. We have to work on your branding because you're bringing a concept that works in a certain area of the city. Like if you put it in Chinatown, sure, it fits there, but it's not what you're trying to do. And it's not what you're doing in Jakarta. Actually, the design of the places in Jakarta are gorgeous, very pretty. The branding, like so nice. But then we needed to tweak and we needed to adjust the presentation of the food, to adjust the names, because we need to adjust to a market.
Yes.
This is a different market. This is not Jakarta. So we need to tweak. And we were able to tweak. We also hired a local chef to work with the chefs from China and Indonesia on the development of the food. And it opened, and it was a very big success. It was fantastic. It did work, but you have to listen and ask the right questions. And of course, having on the other side someone that is willing to take that feedback and take that guidance that you're trying to give them and not be stubborn, not have a big egos. And those are conversations that I have too with people, is that you have to be open-minded. Because if you're not open-minded, we're not going to be able to do this. Very important.
You are really going to the core of a concept, like in your example, of a culture also. And then you are, for their good, of course, the good of the project here, but you are trying to modify it, adapt it, so it's a lot of effort because you really go to the core.
It's
not an easy.
Yes, and it's hard for people, and I have had it multiple times that they just don't want to listen. That's when I have to make a decision. Is like I'm going to try to convince them, but I can't push that hard. It has to be organic. It has to be that my description and the way that I talk about my projects, my past, which they're physical, they're right out there. You can go and taste this restaurants, which some of them are still in business, most of them, some others are not, but I can't control that because I already left that project a while ago. But by me explaining, if that is not enough, and if I take you to the restaurants and that's still not enough and you think you know it all, I sometimes decide to go in a very different direction and say, you know what, best of luck. No, because it's hard to work with people that really do not want to open their mind and are not open to taste new things. Because if you're coming from a different country, you're going to need to tweak things a little bit, not 100%, but a little bit. And a very simple example is Mexican food. You can't eat at the spice level that you eat in Mexico City here. It's just not okay for business. People can't. They can't handle the spice level. So you have to tone it down. Does that mean that, your cochinita pibil is not going to be delicious? No, it is. No, you want to make it spicy? Bring your sauce on the side that is fire.
Someone can just add it. Those that has the courage to do so. Is there a misconception that people have about restaurants or about consultants for restaurants?
Well, the thing is, there are many consultants and people out there in the industry. I think reputation is the most important. I think it's more that word of mouth, and that's where things happen for me. A chef tells another chef, you should work with Felipe because he has done this for me. And then a chef calls me. It gives that confidence to the chef or the operator that I'm there to help them. At the end, I want them to be successful. Restaurant is so much work and such a big investment.
Yeah.
Opening a new restaurant, it could cost from $500,000 to some of the most recent ones. There could go to $10 million in investment for a restaurant. Now, I'm the person selling them everything that they could use for that restaurant for many years to come. So I want to be there from the beginning. I want to support them, and I want them to make the least amount of mistakes so we can continue, we can grow together. But yeah, at the end is letting them know that here's what I've done before, and to start that relationship and show them every day that you're a professional, that you care for them, that you're respectful, that, listen to them a lot and give them advice, but you don't give advice to everybody the same way. It's a crafted message for every single person. Some of them are crazy about you speaking and giving them feedback. Some others, not so much. So
little by little.
Just a little crumb, and just then you start convincing them that what I'm bringing in, that knowledge that I'm passing to you in that experience. Because think about it. I experience so many things. I work right now with 40 to 50 chefs at the same time, and they're all calling for very different things. I learn from them a lot. And that knowledge, I can pass it to some of my chefs, said, hey, I already did this. I went through this, and here's what worked. It's about a crafted message for each person. That's very important.
Since Gloneration is for the new generation of global talents and brands, talking about talents, there are plenty of, you also said, international talents, chefs. Can you share the three traits or skills that a chef who wants to be global must have?
I would say discipline. It's very, very, very important to be disciplined and, just put your head down. And that one goes connected to being patient. You're going to start probably as a prep cook or as a dishwasher, and it takes time to move up the ladder. You cannot become the executive chef in a week. It's just not going to happen. I'm not saying it has to be extreme, like, for example, in Japan. In Japan, it takes longer for people to move up the ladder. And if it's a family business and your father is the actual executive chef, he's going to be so hard on you, and you're going to have to wait for years and years and years to become that person. I'm not saying that. That's extreme for me. No respect. And I love Japan. Been there, and I love what they do because they're just so disciplined, especially in food. They're so disciplined. They're amazing at what they do. But people have to be, there's no immediate gratification at all times. You have to wait. You have to put it in the time to master how to butcher, how to execute certain recipes. Recipes are not easy. Recipes are about precision. Recipes are about many moving parts to be able to do the same thing every single day. And a restaurant is about consistency. So I'm there in 2, and 3, I would say be curious. Read about other chefs, other people in the industry, and listen to a podcast. Podcasts are fantastic. Those 3 are very, very important. Yeah.
Is there anything about your industry, something that if I could just change it, it's so...
So yes, there are several, but one for me is a very simple dish to be on your table. Many things have to happen, and many people have to be behind the dish. And it's something as simple as, let's call it a guacamole. That guacamole has avocados that, for example, we grow them in California. California is not enough to supply avocados to this country, so you have to source to Mexico. Just that part of one ingredient of the avocado, which is going to be several ingredients. My point here is that you have the avocado, you have the tomato, you have the cilantro, you have your pepper, all of these things. First, you have to find a way to put them together and put the good quality together. Then you need to have someone prep things so that guacamole could be made during service and is as fresh as possible. After that, you have to have someone run the guacamole to the table. You need chips. So you're going to have good chips. You're going to need to get good tortillas or good masa. My point here is the amount of hands and people that are needed for something as simple as a guacamole. It's crazy. So that's why a restaurant is so hard to execute. That's just a very small part. Think about the other parts of running that restaurant, which is many. So it's hard. It's very difficult. It takes a whole team of people to be able to run a restaurant properly. And it just has too many variables for them to be able to execute things at a high level. So when I go to a restaurant and for some reason I have a bad experience, I try to be a little more mindful about them and give them a second opportunity. See if I can talk to someone and guide them and teach them
what went wrong.
What went wrong, because it might be if something was off that day, that the server or something could have happened. But that's hard. The actual hours of operation and the schedule that you have when you're an operator, it's wild. And when you're opening these restaurants, you have to be there as early as possible, and you are one of the last ones to leave because you're creating systems. Systems for what? To be able to be consistent and have that consistency every day in the back of the house, meaning the kitchen, and the front of the house with your bar, with your cocktails. Everything has to be done perfectly. And it's like, how do you create systems so that lime is cut every single day, and the old ones, there has to be a checklist. And a checklist is something in a restaurant that is needed. So the tough part about restaurants, the amount of variables that we have. The schedule is also very tough for people.
I bet.
And compensation too. Things are actually adjusting now in the market, but that is one thing that also, for the amount of work that people put in, some of the restaurants, okay, that's the other part. The P&L of a restaurant, you think a restaurant makes a lot of money? They don't, because they have too many expenses to be able to execute and run and put together that guacamole that I was talking about. So it's a lot of work for a bottom line that is sometimes not the healthiest.
So what is the best rewards then for an international restaurant?
The best rewards, it's building relationships. It's connecting with others. The financial part is very important because you're not just running it's a business, and you want to be profitable, you want to grow. But at the end is building. The restaurant is a place that, if it's call it your restaurant or you're the general manager, everyone gets hungry. Everyone wants to eat. Everyone wants to go out, disconnect from work, celebrate a birthday, celebrate something, and they go to your place. So it's a perfect spot for you to connect with everyone. So you have to go with the best attitude. You need to leave everything outside that door that happened during your day in your personal life and create an experience for them. It needs to like be natural for you. It can't be forced.
Yeah.
Because people feel that.
Absolutely.
They feel natural hospitality or forced hospitality. It's like easy to sense that.
Yes, we say that in Italian. Now when you go somewhere, it's like you really feel that they make you feel at home because they are so happy to see you. They know everything, sometimes even too much, It's very nice because they really care about you, and not just the experience itself, but as you said, how you are going to experience the food that they are going to serve. But personally, do you feel you miss something from your hometown, your own country?
I do, and luckily I go back every year to enjoy that part. Our culture, our people, our family, nature, traditions, the things that I just grew up with. I have to go every year because I miss that. And you can't replicate it here. It's just not possible. Those are our roots. The food as well, because for us to make it here, there's certain products you just cannot find. You can't find the ingredients. Something as simple as a fruit or a vegetable. It's very different when it's growing in Colombia at different altitudes where the product doesn't need to travel that much, because that's why they don't have the same flavor. Like a tomato from Italy,
yes,
it's very different from, tomato that is grown here. I miss that. When I go to Colombia, the first thing I was like, tell my dad, let's go to the market where I can get fresh fruit fresh produce, and I just buy a bunch and I take that home. It's one of the first things that I do, and he knows. It's like even when he picks me up at the airport, and if it's early, he's like, "You want to go to the market?"
This is the schedule first.
Yeah. The market, yeah, absolutely.
I think that the energy and the flavor. My dad still grows vegetables. It goes behind our house in Italy. No, chop something. It's 2 minutes from the field to the plate. Totally different. If you have to say the biggest lesson that this global experience that you have gave you.
Being more open-minded to understand cultures, because there's a reason, there's a why people react in a certain way to just things in general. So you have to take the time to educate yourself on why that person from that part of the world might be doing things in that way. Now we have access to absolutely everything, all information. So educate yourself, be more open, learn other cultures. That will help you understand them and understand yourself and understand how do we get from A to B. Yes, I travel the world through them.
I want to underline this because I think it's a very good suggestion that you're sharing. Sometimes with social media, people just Google something, check something on social media or through AI now, which is, and then they of course, you find something super summaries of a concept. Then you need to further develop experience, meet someone of this culture, ask the same questions to someone real, physically, so you cannot just check online. It's not gonna make you grow.
No, you have to connect with other people. The human connection, you can't replicate that. Absolutely not. Simple. I was just in Lima, Peru, Machu Picchu, and why I was able to find the places to go, why I was able to find the restaurants, why I was able to, have the experience that I had because of relationships that I developed here in Chicago and throughout, other cities, and asking the question to the person. Chat GPT and Google and all that. Does it help? Yes, it complements what other people said, but I believe more the person, because they also know me better. They know who I am. They know a little bit more about me than just, AI, which is very useful. Don't get me wrong. I use it.
No, I use it as well. But I think if I'm meeting someone whose culture I'm not very familiar, I can get some suggestions, some touch points, some sensitive points that is better not to touch. But then it's meeting other people, asking questions, look them in the eyes, talking about everything. Is there a sentence or a quote that define you in any language?
Well, there are several, but I would say just loyalty. The loyalty to your friends, to your family, to your people, and if that reciprocates to you, is something that it is the most important thing. Like the same way that you do it with a plant and you're watering the plant, you should be watering that group of people that are loyal to you, that they care for you, because it takes two to tango. Just takes two people in friendship, in a relationship. So you have to water the plants every day a little bit. And that those plants are equivalent to your family, your friends. Even if you're so busy, it's like, this person is special. I have to find the time. Even I know I'm going to have to work extra today. I have to figure it out, because it's that curiosity. I was like, yes, I want to know more. And hoping that the other side also appreciates that, and it keeps, like if you were playing ping pong. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it did. There's no right or wrong here. Did you have, or do you have any mentor?
Many, but let's try to narrow it down. First, my grandfather. My grandfather was, the person just driving everything for our family back in Colombia. Someone that actually started from nothing. Someone that had very little education, who went really up the ladder for a Japanese company. Yeah. He was a top seller for Suzuki Motors, and I think at that point in probably all Latin America, and he was the one doing all the contracts with the government, for the police, for the military, for all the entities of the government in Colombia, in Bogota. Grandpa really didn't graduate from any college. All he did was just put his head down, work really hard, learn, absorb from other cultures. And for me, that was always mind blowing. I had that example of him. In our industry, I would say one of the main ones was definitely Art Mendoza. Art Mendoza used to work for Let Us Entertain You. He worked for Brinker International. He was a partner at Lettuce. I was able to open 2 restaurants with him. I learned very, very much from him. Someone that at that point, he probably opened more than 100 restaurants. I learned a lot from Art in many aspects. The financial part was one that when you're starting your career, you don't really understand the P&L of that restaurant very well, but he was able to break it down for me, and we will go over a P&L every single week, how you tweak something and how it will impact the bottom of the P&L, how you tweak recipes and how that affect cost of goods, how you talk to an employee, and you really don't have to scream that much. It's the how. It's not what, because you can try to, in your early stages of being a manager, you're learning a lot. I also, living in New York and working with chefs from Europe and other countries and other cultures, they're different styles. And back in the days, it was more of the screaming and throwing and all that. It was one that showed me that you don't have to do any of that stuff. You talk to a person like with all due respect, and you can get more accomplished. I love him. He's a very close friend of mine. And I was saying Cisco, one of my best friends who I was his boss when I was running restaurants. I was able to guide him moving into the restaurant career, and he was able to move up the ladder. We actually opened Mercadito together. And today, he works at Cisco. He moved to work for Cisco before me, and when I wanted to make a change, he was one of the guys that I called. Well, today he is my boss. After knowing him for 20 years, I was his boss 17 years ago. Now he's my boss. He understands me so well, and he has coached me on many things in sales, and it's just great to have someone that cares for you, loves you, understands you. He was my right hand when I was running Mercadito, and I had very little patience at that time, and he's always very calm. He's like, move over. I got this. You continue doing your thing. And I was just burning inside. I was like, thank God Juan is around to help me with this. So, yeah. And there are many. You know what? I learn from everybody. And anytime that I interact with my chefs and operators and owners and just friends, you just learn.
Yeah, that's very humble from you. I learned everything from you today.
I really don't care about being the boss anymore. I used to when I was younger. I don't care. All I do is I take care of my chefs, the operators, and I report to one guy, and they just let me do my thing. I have the support of a very big company. There's many people behind me to be able to do what I do. So many.
Last question is not from me, but is from one of our audience, from Giuliano. Giuliano is asking, when you entered your new career, your global career, for sure at some point you had an experience of unease or discouragement. What emotional strategies did you adopt?
Okay, 2013, I had my own company, and this was like my third project, and it went really bad. I was consulting for a very big restaurant here in Chicago, and I built a team for this. It was a kind of deal. So I had to put together a general manager, an AGM, a marketing manager. I had to get a sous chef and a whole team that was under my umbrella. And this restaurant went bankrupt, and I brought in all these people. I had agreements. So this was a situation where I lost a lot of money, and that's never easy. And you bring in people that they trust you, that you're going to take care of them. You hire them, you give them the contract for X amount of time. So I cover it and I took care of them, but at the end was discouraging and it was tough. And at the same time, in that year, I lost my mom. So what did I do? I ended up at one point taking a flight to Buenos Aires, Argentina by myself. And I ended up signing for my first marathon for Chicago Marathon, which is 2014. Oh. Running for me and traveling, of course, but the running part, it's a therapy and it's just a moment for me with me Every time that I travel to any city, any part of the world, the first thing that I do next day in the morning, I go for a run around a half marathon by myself with with no agenda. I just go for a run and see what happens. Always I find amazing things, and I just take note as I am running, or mental note. So when my trip starts, after going back to the hotel, it's like, okay, I didn't know that place was there, because you do the research, you call friends, but like sports and running and disconnecting yourself, you can't just work. You can't. You need to balance life. I used to just work. That's not healthy. You have to balance. It's very, very important.
Yes, totally agree. Now, our Gloneration game. So I will mention some skills or areas in life, and you need to define yourself, global or local. And by local, you can mention any country. So, for example, food, global or local?
Global.
Education?
Global, because I lived in so many different places, and I work with so many nationalities that, yeah, 100%.
Sport?
Global. I love soccer, and I follow every league in the world. It's a little bit local too now, but when I lived in Colombia, I followed the NBA. Now I get to enjoy it here, and I can go to a Bulls game even.
Creativity?
I'm global because I work with so many chefs from different nationalities that it can't be just local.
Family? Global or local?
Both, because now, like, a lot of my family have moved out of Colombia. Some of them live in Florida. Some of them live in Atlanta. Some of them live in Europe. I have family everywhere. So it's not a local thing anymore.
Arts and culture?
Global.
Design?
Oh, 100% global. Italians are so stylish in so many ways, but it's not just Italy. It's a combination of different cultures. Like, I'm always looking at how people are dressed, what they're wearing, colors. So it is definitely international. I like, and I'm curious about what other people wear.
You like to play with the style.
I love playing it. Like today, because there's a lot of meetings with chefs, is of course I'm not going to wear the fanciest of all, but I like to mix it.
Yes. Music?
International, yes. Yeah, even growing up in Colombia, love my salsa and love my local music, but guess what? I was listening to music from the 80s, from the 90s, Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith, UB40, Bob Marley,
Movies?
International. I was part of the board of the International Latino Cultural Center, which they have the movie festival, which is the International for Hispanic Movies here in Chicago. But also, I love, watching movies from all around the world, even in other languages with subtitles.
Holidays or destinations?
Oh, always a tradition at home to have Christmas with the family and to cook. That was one that is from Colombia. But then I've been here for 22 years in the U.S., and as I love cooking, then of course Thanksgiving and friends and cooking with others, it's always been something. It's definitely global.
Time management?
Time management, more it's local. That is something that I learned more here in the U.S. I think in Colombia, we're a little bit too chill about, time management and the respect for time, the respect of other people's time.
Problem solving?
That's more local. That's been from my years of operations and restaurants in the U.S. So,
okay. Empathy?
Local. Definitely something I learned more here with people like Art and many other mentors and friends, and just in general.
Emotional intelligence?
Local. More of my experience in life here in the U.S. and
leadership style?
Local here in the U.S.
The very last, team management?
Global. Also because of projects that I've done that are from other countries. So
what is next for you?
First of all, I'm having so much fun with what I do at Cisco, and as a consultant for all of my chefs and the new projects that come my way. But definitely next is traveling more with Michelle, my partner, and enjoying, our time now. Traveling, we recently were in Lima and Cusco and Machu Picchu, where I get engaged, and that was an amazing time. Yeah, spending time with family and friends, continue my marathons. I want to finish all the majors. I'm halfway. So I have New York, Chicago, and Berlin. So I need Boston, London, and Tokyo. So let's see. I'm not as fast as some of our friends, and I like food, so it's hard to lose weight.
It's a good motivation, you know. You
Well,
need
it
to
keeps.
train.
I said balance. Remember, I said balance.
Yeah.
That's how it keeps things balanced. Other than that, for work, no, I'm where I am. It's amazing because I'm learning every day. I'm not bored at all.
I bet. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So
This was amazing. Yeah,
laughing.
appreciate it.
Felipe. But today I'm super happy to have had the opportunity to speak with such a great character and professional like Felipe. Wasn't it great? If so, please keep supporting us. If you haven't done yet, please follow the page and keep supporting the Gloneration podcast. If you have a friend who is thinking about a career like the one of Felipe, don't hesitate. Go ahead and share the episode. With me, Simona Lodolo. See you in a couple of weeks. Bye. Ciao.